I am so excited to announce the launch of our Keep the Lights On campaign. We're working with CHN Housing Partners to raise money for our neighbors who are struggling to pay their utility bills amid the pandemic. And you, our viewers, can help. As his bills began to stack up, so did his worries.
What's in my hand is bills that are shortly getting ready to shut off.
Cleveland resident and Army veteran Terrence DeWalt is one of nearly 15,000 Northeast Ohioans who applied for assistance since the start of the pandemic.
I have no income coming in. I'm not getting any help from any of these services.
While local nonprofits like CHN have given out $12 million to 5,500 applicants, the reality is the demand for help far outweighs the available funding.
We're seeing an unprecedented need during this crisis, and it's a different need than what we've seen before because of all the job loss that people have had.
And CHN's executive director says this crisis is not just affecting low-income families, but also those who have never applied for assistance before.
The restaurant worker at your favorite restaurant that was otherwise had reduced hours, or the restaurant closed. That single mom who otherwise needed to take time off to be able to care for her children because her children weren't in school because the schools have been closed.
These are the types of people that may not qualify for government assistance but still need some help. And they're part of the reason why we launched our Keep the Lights On campaign. First,
we only have a certain pot of dollars that are provided by the government. And second, that those dollars are not as flexible as many people will need and don't cover our entire viewing area. So what that allows for us to do is to fill those gaps within the system.
You can head to keepthelightsoncele.org right now to donate, and every nickel we raise will go toward Northeast Ohioans facing utility shutoffs.
All I'm doing now is asking for a little bit of assistance, and it's tough to get.
So our neighbors like Terrence can breathe a little easier. And of course, our campaign will not solve the utility crisis. We know that, Russ. Our goal is to bring some short-term relief for those who really need it right now.
Certainly. Let me ask you this. How will applicants be vetted to make sure that money is going to the right place?
It's a great question, and that's exactly why we teamed up with CHN Housing Partners. They'll be doing the vetting to make sure that only those truly in need are getting help.
So remind us how long the campaign is going to last and where people can donate.
It's going to be a month-long campaign, and you can donate right now by going to keepthelightsoncele.org, and we encourage folks to do so, Russ.
Okay. Rachel Polansky, thank you.
Thousands of our neighbors are in crisis this winter, struggling to pay their utility bills during the pandemic. 7 in Cuyahoga County have already lost their lives this month related to winter. To make a difference, WKYC Studios came up with an idea to, quote, keep the lights on for our community. 3 News investigator Rachel Polansky is spearheading that effort.
So you can look through the pages.
69-year-old Gwendolyn Garth wears many hats.
And see, that's it.
Oh, yeah. Artist, activist.
I'm doing a lot of creative journaling.
And one of millions of Americans struggling to make ends meet in the wake of COVID-19.
You got cost recovery charges.
While Garth has been able to get some help from PIPP and other government assistance programs, finances remain a major challenge. And right now, she owes $8,000 in past due gas and electric bills.
They automatically put you on the Payment Plus plan, which is like a third of your original bill. And mine, for me, it was $900 and X amount of dollars.
It was $900 and X number of dollars a month.
Yeah.
Garth lives on $444 from Social Security each month, plus whatever she can make from her artwork. Her utilities have been disconnected in the past, but right now she says she's getting by. As with any climb out of debt, she has a long road ahead.
I will not be in the dark again, and that's metaphorically and literally. If any utility have to go, it'll be the gas.
And Garth is far from alone. Since the start of the pandemic, nearly 15,000 Northeast Ohioans applied for assistance through Cleveland nonprofit CHN. And while the affordable housing developer has given out $12 million to 5,500 applicants, the reality is the demand for help far outweighs the available funding. It's part of the reason why we launched our Keep the Lights On campaign.
What we've seen through our work in the community, whether it be people not being able to pay their rent, people not being able to pay their utilities, just really an unprecedented need during this time.
All right, so here's how it works. You can head to keepthelightsoncele.org right now to donate. And Jimmy, every nickel we raise will go toward Northeast Ohioans who are facing utility shutoffs. Every morning is like the last for Jennifer Toth.
I wake up every day thinking, okay, is this the day that the worst could happen?
Disabled for 16 years with lupus, her Social Security income is fixed. Her days of worry are not.
In the beginning of COVID, it changed everything for me, and just everyday basic needs, the costs went astronomically high. So the limited income I was already on was getting more limited.
Toth is like thousands of our neighbors struggling to keep the lights on amid the COVID-19 pandemic. She's lived it before and fears it's close to happening again. What is it like getting a shutoff notice?
It's pretty much the death of your dignity.
Like many, she's not poor enough to qualify for existing programs and not wealthy enough to keep up. Today, she owes $2,200 to First Energy. Why is that so frustrating?
Because there's nowhere else to turn.
High demand for help has depleted assistance funds, creating a massive void of people unable to pay their utility bills. People like Jennifer, who are part of the reason we partnered with CHN to launch our Keep the Lights On campaign.
And so what we've seen through our work in the community, whether it be people not being able to pay their rent, people not being able to pay their utilities, just really an unprecedented need during this time.
For Jennifer, telling her story is her way of raising awareness to a crisis that is leaving many of our neighbors vulnerable to utility shutoffs.
So it's across all economic platforms, no matter how much you make, where you live, what you do, it's affecting everybody in some way.
And of course, our campaign will not solve the utility crisis. We know this. Our hope is to bring some short-term relief to those who really need it. If you'd like to donate, you can head to keepthelightsoncele.org right now, and every nickel we raise will go toward Northeast Ohioans who are facing utility shutoffs. Rachel Polansky, 3 News.
$45,000. That's how much money you've helped us raise for our Keep the Lights On CLE campaign.
But it is not over yet. You can still donate by visiting www.keepthelightsoncele.org. As we have told you, every dollar raised will go toward our neighbors facing utility shutoffs.
That's where 3 News investigator Rachel Polansky picks up the heartwarming story as we've already started paying off some utility bills.
Most people are out of work.
Earlier this month, we introduced you to this Cleveland woman and this Lakewood woman. Jennifer Toth is disabled with lupus.
I actually had to stop working in 2004. I had a heart attack. I could barely move.
Katrina Tonkara is still working, but not as much as she'd like to because of pandemic restrictions.
My hours have reduced dramatically.
Like many, they're not poor enough to qualify for existing utility programs and not wealthy enough to keep up. They're both behind on their utility bills.
I wake up every day thinking, okay, is this the day that the worst could happen?
While local nonprofits like CHN Housing Partners have made 5,500 payments to utility providers, totaling $12 million on behalf of struggling Northeast Ohioans, the reality is the need for help far outweighs the available funding.
We're seeing an unprecedented need during this crisis, and it's a different need than what we've seen before.
And that's where our Keep the Lights On campaign comes into the picture. Using the money you've donated, our partners at CHN have begun paying off Jennifer and Katrina's utility bills. I personally shared the good news.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh, that's such a relief.
Wow, thank you. You are an angel.
So that our campaign can help the most people in need, we're putting $750 toward each applicant's past due bills. For Katrina, it'll pay off her debt.
Yes, it'll make a big difference.
And if we reach our goal of $50,000, that means we'll be able to help dozens more right here in Northeast Ohio.
It just helps so much to get things under control.
If you're able to, you can donate now at keepthelightsoncele.org and save the date for next Wednesday night from 5:30 to 7:30. We'll be hosting a Digithon at WKYC.com and on our Facebook page. We'll have live performances from musicians, a comedian, a magician, and even a special guest from Hollywood who has Ohio ties. In these pandemic times where it's tough to see live entertainment, it's going to be a really fun event that you won't want to miss. Rachel Polansky, 3 News.
$68,000. That's how much you helped raise for our Keep the Lights On campaign. Tonight, as Rachel Polansky tells us, that money has now been distributed to more than 100 of our neighbors facing utility shutoffs.
It was in this moment that we decided to launch our Keep the Lights On campaign. What is your biggest fear?
That I might freeze to death because they're going to cut my power off.
When we learn the things that we take for granted, or what Cleveland resident and Army veteran Terrence DeWalt fear the most.
What's in my hand is bills that are shortly getting ready to shut off.
And Terrence was one of nearly 15,000 Northeast Ohioans who applied for assistance during the pandemic.
All right.
Jennifer Toth did too.
When you're single, divorced in my situation, no kids, on disability, and I wasn't hitting any criteria for any help anywhere.
Disabled for 16 years with lupus, her Social Security income was fixed. Her days of worry were not.
Then miraculously, you called.
And while local nonprofits like CHN Housing Partners have given out $31 million in COVID rental assistance to 8,500 applicants, the reality is the need for help far outweighs the available funding. It's part of the reason why we partnered with CHN to create this fundraiser.
And so what we were able to do then is to help serve some of the families, like the single mom who worked at the restaurant. With those industries closed the way they were, it created this unique environment where people who usually are able to pay the bills just weren't able to, and this helped to fill that need.
At first, 3 News vowed to raise $30,000 to help our neighbors, but each time we set a fundraising goal, you helped us crush it. We have reached $30,000. And as we crossed the finish line,
$45,000.
And tallied the donations, the total came to $68,000.
Didn't just raise money for today, but also helped to bring a broader awareness for something that is an ongoing issue within our community.
So that your donations could help the most people in need, we put up to $750 toward each applicant's past due bills.
Where are you now with your bills?
I have $500 less at the balance of my electric bill, and then I'm completely caught up.
Helping 111 Northeast Ohio families. Rachel Polansky, 3 News.